Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody today?
Good. Awesome.
I'd like to welcome you to another Sunday morning adult Lyceum program, and also welcome to all those out who are watching the live stream. Wherever you are in the world, welcome. As you may know, every Sunday morning from 9:30 to about a little bit after 10 or so, we will have another teacher here talking to us something interesting for us as spiritualists. Now, before I start my talk, a few announcements. Next week, our teacher will be Dr. Jerry Krista. It'll be her first time doing the Lyceum class, so I'll look forward to that. Trying to do a little catch-up because of the shutdown. A lot of the things were canceled, but the Thursday evening Ancient Wisdom teachings, my class every Thursday here. I see a number of my students here today, thank you, and I'm sure out there in television land. So we're back doing the Thursday evening class here at 7 o'clock every Thursday. And we have a super conscious meditation class on Friday, July 17th. It's a Friday class, so keep that in mind. We'll talk about it between now and then. Sometimes a teacher has to teach from their personal experience, and that's what we're going to do today. This will be my final Lyceum lecture or talk as the director of the Adult Lyceum program. My term runs through next week, and starting in July we'll have another director taking over. I just want to make it clear, because a lot of people ask me if I was forced out or asked to resign. No. It was my decision. I've been doing Lyceum one way or another virtually every Sunday, unless I've been sick or out of town, for 29 years. Think about that. I didn't expect that, but thank you. And it was Lyceum as much as anything that got me deep into Cassadaga, of course, and spiritualism. Now, my introduction to spiritualism actually goes back to the mid-1980s up in Buffalo, where a friend of mine took me to Camp Lilydale, which is right outside of Buffalo. And I just closed my martial arts schools, so I knew that if I went to this camp with all these psychics, I didn't want to give out any clue as to who I was and what I was about. So I made sure I dressed very generically. And so we hung around Lilydale, and then they announced that we're going to have the message service in the Forest Temple, which is outside. Probably the origin of the word Grove Service. So I sat way in the back on the bench. A number of mediums got up, gave messages, and then they announced that the last medium was going to give up, last for the day. And he gave some messages, and then he came to me and said, and you'll be the last message for the day. And what he said was absolutely astounding to me. As if he knew me forever. Maybe he did, I don't know. But what he told me just struck me between the eyes. What do you do with some information like that your first time? You store it away and just see what happens. Like I said, that was about 1985. By the end of 90, I was in a different family situation, and we decided to move to Florida. Well, right down the street here, about 4 miles from here, is where we moved. And a new family situation and a new house, we were quite busy doing things, getting the kids settled into school, things like that. And a friend of mine who had moved to Florida about a year or two before came to visit, And she said, we got to get you guys out of the house. You know, you've been doing too much. Let's go out somewhere. And of course, it was a Wednesday evening, and she took us here to Cassadaga Spiritualist Camp. And you probably know that Wednesday evening there's a message service down in the temple. Okay, we'll go. Reverend Jerry Frederick, who still lives right, I can see his house from here, was the minister in charge, and the student helping him was our dearly departed friend Jim Watson. And I can still remember where I was sitting, down to that side. And Jim, who turned out to be a very good friend of mine later, gave me a message. It made no sense at all. I'm thinking, this isn't like Lilydale. It made no sense at all. Except later, when we went home, and everything that he had talked about was being played out in real time before my eyes. He saw what was happening before it happened, and I got to see it. I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty cool. There is something to all of this. Wait a minute, they talked about some kind of church service on Sunday. I personally gave up on religion in college to get busy with things. That's a new family situation. I should probably do something. So we came here that Sunday, a few days after the Wednesday service, Father's Day, 1991. Now you know why I scheduled myself for today. And I heard about this Lyceum thing. So the Lyceum used to be down in the temple before the church service. And Reverend Tom Berkner, he's in spirit too, was in charge of it. The Lyceum teacher was at the time Ben Cox. He's in spirit too. And after week after week, we might get 3 people, 5 people, 4 people, no people, 1 people. One time we had 8 people. We were absolutely astounded. Wow, 8 people. My first 2 years here in Cassadaga, I only missed 2 Sundays because I was off in Orlando doing some workshops. I never missed a Wednesday message service those first 2 years. Of course, after that, I made most of them. I can't say I made them all. And that was the beginning of my education in all of this. Just my nature to help. So during Lyceum, I used to help out. I don't know, do whatever. After the church service, where today students have to mark down what I just did it. Pick up the hymnals and move the cushions and just help out. That's part of the education too. To be a part of something bigger than yourself. Well, after Tom Berkner gave it up, Reverend P.V. Rose Bergen used to live across the street over here. She's in spirit now too. By that time we moved it up here. And I just kept rolling along with it, helping out, doing this, doing that. I had no official title. After a while, Phoebe gave it up. I just kept rolling along with it. I kind of took it over by default. It was only a few years ago when the Board of Trustees here said, well, we might as well just give you the title. So people, I did an interview not too long ago. How long have you been the director? I don't know. How long have I been involved? 29 years. What an education. Think about that. Every Sunday, a different teacher here. Well, maybe not Easter Sunday. Okay. And if Christmas or something like that falls on Sunday, no. So we're figuring about 50, 51, 52 Sundays every year that you can come and learn. And I always used to joke and say, if you don't like it, we'll give you your money back, because it's free. And you might get coffee and a donut. Oh, excuse me, I get my coffee now. It was while I was coming here in my early days at Cassadaga when the family situation changed. I met my wife, Jeanette. I'm the talker, she's the writer. Many of you know that. So, of course, she started coming to Lyceum, and she took notes. I always tell people, this is school. You should be taking notes. But she took notes for a long time. And her book, which is in the bookstore, Journey to Cassadaga, is her journey to coming here. A friend of hers brought her here, same as me. A friend brought me here, a friend brought her here, different friend. And it's her finding me, finding spiritualism, finding Cassadaga, finding Lyceum. And much of her book is her notes to those early days of Lyceum. There's a whole study course in there if you care to look at it. I have to say that over the years, I had unofficial helpers. Like I used to be an unofficial helper. For many years, Harry back there was my unofficial assistant. I've also had Dawn Nedley. She's not here, but I saw her go by today in her car. She's around. Cindy Grzinski, who is now Cynthia Gordon. She was helpful too. And even in my everyday life, I have helpers who help me in my different things that I do. Some of whom are in this room. You can't do this alone. You can't do anything alone. So I thank you for that. When I first started running Lyceum, even if it was unofficial, the only teachers allowed were spiritualist ministers. Kind of cramps your style a little bit, you know. We have to do something every week. So at the time, the president of the board said, "No, you can expand it. You can have mediums and you can have healers." So that was a big help. And who benefits? You guys. A wider range of experience. Standing here, I'm the only one who sits because everybody stands here and just brings out the teachings. I also started bringing in guest instructors. It really widened more of the experience for you. Now, most of you know me. You know that over the years I've kind of expanded, what some people would say, expand outside the bounds of spiritualism. Been to India twice, been to Egypt, been to Peru. But I always found that everything that I experienced comes back to Cassadaga spiritualism. I don't see a separation. I see it's all one big boiling pot of knowledge and experience. Spiritualism was never meant to be in a box. They only made it a religion so that they didn't get caught up in the witchcraft laws. It's a movement to expand your mind. That's what this is about. That's what we try to accomplish in Lyceum. That's what we try to accomplish during the message service and the church lecture, and the workshops and the seminars and Gala Day. I was a teacher in the early days here in Lyceum, long before I got certified. Because up to that point, again, ministers and mediums and healers were the only ones allowed to teach. But the board, for some reason, without me even knowing it, approved 3 people to teach outside of those guidelines. George Daniels, who had a background in education up in New York State, he's in spirit. Ben Cox, who at the time was just a student, went on to be everything. He's in spirit. And me, who had no official background at all. I don't know why the board did that, but I'm glad they did. Lyceum has been a wonderful experience all the way around. Over the last few years, we average about 20, some days it could be 15 people, some days it could be close to 30. Depends on the weather, it depends on the snowbirds, it depends on the races in Daytona. One time, we brought in my guru's son, Sri Babuji from India, and filled this room with close to 100 people. Why? Because whoever stands here or sits here has something important to say to you. So even though this is my last teaching as a director, it won't be my last teaching. Because the incoming director said, no, you got to keep teaching. So you can't get rid of me that easily. I'll be around. Let me check my notes here. I guess I want to go back and stress what Lyceum is about. I've been asked a number of times, what kind of word is that, Lyceum? Never heard of it before. Well, the concept goes back to, probably about 2,400, 2,500 years. You might have a different idea on that. It goes back to the days of Aristotle. How about that? Aristotle was a student of Plato. These Greek philosophers founded the Western philosophy. Of course, they got it from Egypt, but that's another story. And Plato had a big school called the Academy. Now, Aristotle wants to start a school, but he doesn't want to steal the word academy from his teacher. So he has his assistant say, look, set up a school, do something. What should we call it? Well, we'll call it Lyceum. So Aristotle was the first that I know of that used the word in the concept of a school called Lyceum. It means literally a teaching forum. Well, eventually the Lyceum was destroyed, literally knocked down. One of the emperors, Roman emperors or somebody did it, I forget who. And so the word was not around until the 1800s. We're sitting in a building called Andrew Jackson Davis building. And Andrew Jackson Davis, you should really look him up, was a forerunner of what we call modern spiritualism today. He started the Progressive Lyceum and the Children's Progressive Lyceum back in the 1800s. School. Notice the word progressive. In that time period, the word and the idea of Lyceum started to spread. Back in those days, you had Lyceum for writers, Lyceum for artists, Lyceum for some kind of guild or something. Everybody had a Lyceum. Today, you just might call it adult education. So the word died out again, and even the many churches and spiritualist camps I've been to, you don't see Lyceum around much anymore. Lilydale has a whole building separate for Lyceum. But it's very rare. And every year when I give my report to the Board of Trustees at our annual meeting, I make it a point to say that Cassadaga continues and should continue education through Lyceum. Look at the people here today. Now there was a time period not too long ago because of the lockdown that we had maybe 2 or 3 people here. And I respect that. You shouldn't come out during that level of pandemic. So Lewis, through the blessings of the board, our pastor back there, set this up to live stream. I have no idea how many are watching, but even if a few are watching, they're going to gain something valuable to them, is the hope. So what do we do in Lyceum? Well, spiritualism is defined pretty easily as the science, the philosophy, and the religion of continuous life. Every religion teaches about life after death. One of my teachers once said, if it was Nick, he said, religion prepares you for an afterlife. Some might do a better job. I don't think anybody does a better job than spiritualism. What they talk about, we demonstrate. And so the science of spiritualism can be broken down like this. One way to look at the science is that today there's so many psychic research centers throughout the world. Mostly Russia, England, and here, but all over the world. And they pretty much began by studying mediumship. What are these mediums doing? Is it real? They put some of the early mediums through the most horrific tests. Watch them go into trance, pricking them with pins, and crazy stuff. Always looking for verification of mediumship and things like that. A number of years ago, somebody said, "Oh, Don, there's a group up in Jacksonville trying to prove life after death." I said, "Again? How many times do you have to prove it?" Actually, all you really need is once. But we do it over and over and over, for those who want to know. And so the science also is demonstrating if you do this, that happens. That's science. You do this, that happens. The problem there is that scientists want to do it under their controlled conditions, whereas we have to have our controlled conditions to make it work. And it does work. So that's the science of it. We demonstrate that which we talk about. The philosophy can be summed up in our 9 principles, our Declaration of Principles, which we read every Sunday before service. It's in all the literature, it's in your program. There wasn't always 9 of them. The wording has changed over the years. And not every church or organization has the exact wording. But the principle, literally the principle of the principles, are the same. Now the philosophy then builds on those 9, doesn't stop with those 9. An example in our student curriculum at the ministerial level. Parapsychology, natural law. What else I'm thinking? Metaphysics, comparative religion, comparative spiritualism. Now, if you start taking those into consideration, you just signed up for a lifetime or more to get a handle on those things. And that's in our curriculum. So our philosophy has to match world philosophy, or you don't have a very good philosophy. Science, philosophy, which is what we do here. Then the religion. That's his job back there, the pastor of the temple. Whoever that pastor is focuses on the religion. And so we have quite a ball of wax to deal with here. Now a thought comes into my head. I see a lot of people here. A lot of people I know very well. Thank you for being here. But every week, as the weeks and the years go by, there's different people. So we could count heads at any time, say 15, 20 people, 19 people, 14 people. But over a period of time, a lot of people pass through this room. Some are one-trip wonders. They come in, they see it, they like it, they don't like it, they don't come back, they don't like it. They're not ready. Others come in whenever they can. That's fine. Others are snowbirds. You're going to see them every week for a couple months, and then you don't see them again. Till the next year they come back. So look at the birds. They play, you know. But that's good. And then you keep in touch by email in between times. And then there's the regulars. But everybody gets out of Lyceum. Everybody gets out of spiritualism. Everybody gets out of Cassadaga whatever they need. If what? If they're open to it. Except for that one message in Lilydale in the 80s, I knew nothing about this. I mean, nothing. I showed up here in 1991 about as blank of a slate as you can imagine. I didn't know karma from a chakra. Nothing. Matter of fact, me as a teacher, I sometimes prefer the blank slate. It's that much less unlearning programmed that people come in with. And they hold on to it. Right? Give me a blank slate and an open mind any day. Sit here, sit in class, sit in Gala Day, sit in church. We will fill you up with amazing experiences and teachings. Now again, I'm involved in a lot of different traditions, and the literature in most of those is quite a lot. My library is extensive, some of you know. But really in spiritualism, there isn't that much. There's a lot, but not like some of the other ones. Why? Because we're based in experience. That experience I had in Lilydale, one day, gave me more to think about than many of the books on spiritualism here in our bookstore or our library. When you experience it, Your soul goes like this, your mind goes like this. You say, wow. If that could happen once, what happens if I get involved? And I'm here to tell you it's an amazing thing. Did I plan on this? No. How would I know back in my early days, oh, someday I'm going to be living in a spiritualist community in Florida. I'm going to be a minister and a medium teacher and blah, 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 blah. It's your destiny. Whatever yours is, everybody has their own destiny. You can add to it by being involved in Cassadaga spiritualism. Now, I've talked for a half hour. Oh my God. And I'm open to questions. Many of you know me from class. I love questions. I love them. So if you have a comment or a question, now's the time. If you speak up, you'll be on live stream. Everybody can hear the question. Or comment. Oh my God. I put you to sleep. Here, get more coffee for them. They fell asleep. Nothing. Go ahead. Loud so they can hear you in live stream.
What do you say to people who say their house is haunted?
What do I say to people when they tell me that their house is haunted? Oh, I think I've heard this a few hundred times. The first thing I ask is, why do you say that? Because I want to hear what experiences they're having. And the next question is, does anybody in this house who's involved in the house have a history of drug or alcohol abuse? Oh, yes. Yes. All right. That's a good place to start. Are there any adolescents in the house? Teenagers? Oh, yeah. More often than not, it's not the house, it's the people. Okay. Well, I'm going to move. Go ahead. You just take yourself with you. Wherever you live, you're going to have the same thing. So what do I say about drug and alcohol abuse? That's a whole class I'm going to give some time on how some of these spirits are attracted to the spirits, the alcohol, or the drugs. What do I ask about teenagers in the house? It's known as raging hormones. We all went through it, through that phase when we were all crazy when we were 13, 14 years old. Those hormones are trying to adjust, and they create an energy that can actually move things in the house, create sounds in the house. So before I call it a haunting, I want to eliminate those, and most of the time it's that. Good question, though. Now, if that doesn't do it, then I have to move into the next step and find out. Is there a restless spirit in the house that wants to get a point across? Some of these so-called hauntings can be fearful until you realize it's just somebody trying to get something off their chest. And so you ask. I said, did you ever ask in the house, is there spirits that want to say something? Many times you can get them to say what they need to say and they move on. So that's a whole science. Good question. I'll take one more because I have to finish up pretty soon. Yes?
We have one on the live stream. The question is, how can I recognize spirit?
How can you recognize spirit? Well, That's another big teaching too. But the biggest thing is, did you ask? I've run so many times and run across people with situations. Did you ask who it is and what they want? You might get an answer. So that's the beginning. You got to ask. When you recognize spirit, the whole thing started. What we call modern spiritualism, March 31st, 1848. There's a little, like a broken record, a little cottage in Hydesville, New York, with the Fox family. How did they recognize spirit? Finally, one of the girls goes, because they were hearing sounds, you know. The little girl goes, do this. And spirit went, now you know it's a spirit. It's an intelligence, two-way intelligent communication. So there's many different ways, but basically you have to initiate the communication from this end and see if they communicate from that end. You're dealing with a spirit and not a dysfunctional water pipe or something. I don't know if that answers the question for that person, but in the short time I have, that's what I can do. Is there another one?
I have one.
No, that's wrong.
How do I? Sometimes when I communicate with spirit, they scare me, and the second they sense my fear, they leave instantly. How do I mitigate my fear level whenever they show me something that I'm still trying to get my settle down to and not be afraid of?
Yeah.
And not let them.
You made a statement, you said that when you show the fear, they leave.
Right.
Because fear is a negative emotion. It's a
But
very
it's like-
low frequency.
It's like instantaneous though. Whenever they show me something like I've never been exposed to it, so it's like I have a spike in emotion, and they go,
Yeah.
and it's like fractions of a second. Like this all happens.
Well, okay, again, it's a negative emotion, and they can't deal with that. They leave. It's like you walking into a burning building. You don't want to be there. You leave. Boy, you open a can of worms here. We start talking about the nervous system
It
and
just came to- it
and
just came.
stress. You guys know how I deal with teaching about stress. My suggestion would be to come to the meditation class and workshop I'm doing on the July 17th to learn to control your emotions, control your nervous system, so that when these things happen, there isn't an automatic response of fear. Now, if there's more, I can talk to you sometime separately, but it's the ability to control and to understand that there is no reason for fear. There's no reason for fear. However, if the fear is big enough for a person, then you can attract those spirits. And then we have the hauntings. So I thank you for your kind attention. You've been very nice to, I'm very appreciative of your attendance. Those on the live stream, thank you for being here. And I may be leaving the directorship, but I'm not leaving. Thank you and God bless.